Hey everyone, today I've got a really powerful and eye-opening story to share with you. We're diving into the life of Liam Prescott, a man who hit rock bottom but emerged with insights that could reshape your thinking about life after death. Liam experienced a near-death episode that opened his eyes to the unexpected reality faced by those who take their own lives. The revelations he had could totally shift your perspective on divine love and the things that religions often hide about God. Before we jump into it, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell for notifications so you never miss out on content like this. Trust me, you'll want to buckle in for this transformative journey that just might leave you speechless. Alright, let's get started. My journey is one filled with pain, despair, but also a beautiful tale of redemption and unconditional love. I was born and raised in Maplewood, Oregon, a cozy little town that never really felt like home for me. It all began in chaos. My mother abandoned me as a baby, leaving me to be found by a kind neighbor who saved my life. If it weren't for that person, who knows what might have happened to me? After that, my grandmother Margaret took me in. She was a strong woman, but raising a child alone turned out to be too heavy of a burden for her. When I was still quite small, Margaret went through a nervous breakdown, and just like that, I was left alone in a world that seemed to have no place for me. From that point on, I moved in with some relatives. They were family by blood, but I hardly knew them. They felt like strangers. They were extremely religious, but not in a comforting way. Their approach often felt more like a tool for control rather than love. My Uncle Victor was particularly harsh. He twisted his interpretation of faith to justify his cruel behavior, using Bible verses completely out of context to support his actions. Growing up there felt like I was trapped in an emotional prison. Each day was an uphill battle to keep my sanity and sense of self intact. The hurtful words and unjust punishments were relentless, and I constantly grappled with the feeling of being an unworthy sinner. It was like trying to grow in soil that was completely toxic, an impossible struggle for nourishment and hope. Over time, I crafted a way to cope, creating shields to help me navigate through life. I learned to blend into the background, suppressing what I truly felt and desired. But holding back took a toll on me. On the surface, I was the calm and compliant kid my family wanted. Outwardly perfect, right? Inside, however, I was a chaotic mix of bottled-up feelings, uncertainties, and a deep sense of not being enough. That's how my teenage years and early adulthood began, built on a shaky foundation riddled with cracks that ultimately crumbled under the weight of unresolved issues. As I hit my teenage years, the shadows of my past loomed larger over my daily existence. Growing up with emotional neglect and abuse had left me with deep-seated insecurities and self-doubt. I watched my peers move through life with a confidence I envied, while I felt like a mere spectator, unable to join in. The heaviness of depression wrapped itself around me, sulking in every moment like a shadow I couldn't shake. Each morning felt like a struggle, and finding motivation felt nearly impossible. Though I wanted to reach out for help, the echoes of my past were deafening. I heard whispers telling me, "You don't deserve love," and "This suffering is your punishment." Those damaging phrases became my reality. Gradually, I withdrew, constructing barriers that kept even the kindest friends at bay. Watching my friends move forward, going to university, starting careers, building their lives, only heightened my feelings of being stuck in quicksand, unable to move forward. Their successes felt like a spotlight on my own stagnation, mixing envy and frustration with my already heavy depression, a concoction that consumed me. In this vulnerable state, I sought solace in risky habits. I turned to alcohol as a refuge, a way to quiet the relentless self-criticism that tormented me. The meds I was given for my depression became an escape too, and before long, I found myself relying on them in ways I never intended. I was sinking deep into a pit of despair, grappling with emotional pain that seemed never ending. Each passing day brought an even heavier darkness, and the notion of a joyful future felt like an elaborate trick. Everything around me moved on as usual, while I felt like a spectator watching through a murky window. Nighttime was the hardest. As I lay awake, sleep eluding me, I found myself dissecting every blunder, every moment of being let down. The weight of loneliness felt insurmountable, consuming every part of me. It was during these long, dark hours that I started to entertain some troubling thoughts. If life was nothing but suffering, and if I truly was as broken and unworthy as I feared, what was the point of carrying on? Those fleeting thoughts of escaping began to grow louder and more intense, whispering a tempting promise of relief from the relentless pain. Though I tried to resist these ideas, clinging desperately to any flicker of hope I could muster, I felt like I was on the losing side of a battle. In hindsight, I see it clearly now. I was silently crying out for help. My harmful choices were a desperate signal, a wish for someone to notice and understand my torment. In that suffocating moment, though, all I could see was the encroaching darkness, dragging me towards an abyss I feared might be impossible to escape. As weeks slipped into months, my mental state spiraled further down. The thought of letting go, which once flickered briefly in my mind, began to solidify into a plausible escape from my suffering. It was as if I was locked in a dim room, with suicide presenting itself as the sole exit. I began to think through everything carefully, almost methodically. Part of me felt horrified by the consideration, but another part, worn out from the struggle and the relentless ache, viewed it as a potential act of kindness towards myself. I researched various ways, weighing the options for their effectiveness and the least amount of mess they might cause for those I'd leave behind. One idea that started to dominate my troubled thoughts was the notion of jumping in front of a train. There was something striking about its finality that drew me in. It promised a swift end, irreversible. I wouldn't have to face the aftermath or be stuck living in the same unrelenting cycle of pain. While I was piecing together my intentions, an unexpected sense of tranquility washed over me. It was as if, by opting for this drastic choice, I had wrested some control back into my hands. I started to quietly arrange my affairs, writing farewell letters and sorting through my sparse belongings. Looking back, I find it chilling how detached I was during that time. Some friends must have noticed the shift in my demeanor, particularly one friend, Jordan, who began to show up more frequently and ask probing questions. I could see the worry etched on his face, but I was so consumed by my own pain that I saw his concern as either pity or an invasion of my solitude. One evening, after a heated disagreement with Jordan, it hit me that the time had come for my plan. He had come over, adamant that I needed help, that improvement was possible. Although I knew he meant well, his words felt empty to me. How could he grasp the depth of my struggle? How could anyone? The argument intensified. Frustration bubbled up in Jordan as he pressed me more, while I, too, felt an escalating rage. I was angry at him for intervening, furious at the unfairness of life, and deeply disappointed with myself for feeling so shattered. In a moment of reckless impulse, I flung the car door open while it was still moving and leapt out. The shock of hitting the asphalt was immediate and harsh. I could feel my body colliding with the hard ground, my head slamming against it. The pain was sharp, but it faded almost instantly. To my astonishment, I began to feel a fascinating lightness replacing the hurt. I suddenly found myself hovering above the chaos below, my body lying there, Jordan racing toward me in sheer panic, and cars screeching to a halt. Everything seemed so far away, like I was watching a distant scene unfold on a screen. There was no fear, no lingering pain, just a serene sense of curiosity. In that moment, I comprehended the magnitude of the situation. I had crossed a pivotal line. I wasn't just toying with the idea of ending my life. I was genuinely experiencing it. And surprisingly, it wasn't at all what I had dreaded. Instead of darkness or void, I felt more alive and more conscious than I had ever thought possible. As I observed the frenzied scene beneath me, part of me yearned to call out to Jordan and let him know that I was okay, that he didn't have to be afraid. I found myself in an extraordinary state, completely detached from my physical form. There was no voice, no body, just pure awareness drifting free from the limitations of what I once was. Then, quite unexpectedly, the familiar world around me began to fade. It was like watching a painting slowly dissolve, giving way to something utterly unlike anything I had ever experienced. I felt myself drawn toward an unknown destination. Was I being pulled, or was I choosing to move ahead? Regardless, I was on the brink of an adventure that would shift everything I knew about life, death, and who I was. As the solid world melted away, a warm golden light wrapped around me. It felt like a gentle embrace, completely enveloping every part of my existence. This light was not merely seen, it was something that infused every sense, spilling over beyond anything I could articulate. In that moment, I understood that I had transcended the limits of a physical body. It was as though I had become pure consciousness, unshackled from any pain or fear. Instead, I was enveloped in an overwhelming sense of peace, a feeling unlike anything I had ever known. Time seemed to vanish in this place. I couldn't discern whether I was suspended in moments or drifting through ages. All I felt was movement. Either I was gliding or being led through a realm that went beyond human understanding. As I continued, glimpses of alternate realities unfolded around me. I encountered vibrant hues that have no names in our familiar tongue, and symphonies that no earthly instrument could ever play. It was as if the very secrets of the universe were uncovering themselves before my eyes, barely graspable but tantalizingly close. At one moment, I felt a strong sensation of crossing through a threshold, like breaching the other side of a tunnel into vast, open space. The light intensified, almost blinding, yet somehow it sharpened my perception, granting me clarity I never thought possible. In this new realm, I began to notice the presence of entities surrounding me. These weren't physical beings. They were embodiments of pure energy and light. Some felt surprisingly familiar, as though they were souls I had encountered in significant moments of my life, or connections that spanned this earthly journey. Others appeared entirely foreign, yet all of them radiated a profound warmth of love and acceptance, making me feel as if I had finally arrived home. In that instant, a realization washed over me. I wasn't dead, not in the way I had always pictured it. Instead, I felt more alive than ever before. The pain and struggles that had led me to this moment faded into the background, like a distant memory that I had finally escaped. As I took this in, an undeniable urge surged within me, pulling me towards something beyond my comprehension, like an invitation I couldn't resist. There was no trace of fear. Instead, curiosity bubbled up inside me, whispering that I was on the verge of uncovering something truly monumental. With each step toward this presence, the light around me became more vibrant, almost as if I were approaching the very essence of light and love itself. And then, in what felt like a timeless moment, I stood before something, maybe even someone, that I could only call divine. Encountering what I recognized as a higher consciousness was beyond anything words could capture. This wasn't the bearded figure I might have anticipated. It was pure energy, an all-encompassing awareness that stretched through the universe and beyond. The first sensation that hit me was a wave of love, an unparalleled love that eclipsed anything I had ever known. It surrounded me completely, flooding every part of my being with an all-encompassing acceptance. There was a profound understanding present, filled with infinite compassion, that embraced every detail of my life, reminding me that though I may have struggled, I was always invited to seek forgiveness and restoration. In this profound connection, words felt unnecessary. It was as if communication transcended language, flowing through direct exchanges of knowledge and emotion. In a mere heartbeat, I felt as though the entirety of the universe's wisdom was being poured into me. I grasped concepts far beyond usual human understanding. The mysteries of existence, the intricate web connecting all life, and the true meaning behind our being. Within this divine encounter, the story of my life unfolded before my eyes. It was a moment of reflection, where I understood the importance of repentance and the call to turn back to God for healing and redemption. Each instance of pain, every struggle, and all the choices I made were seen through a lens of profound love. I came to understand that even in my darkest hours, I had never truly walked alone. From the very beginning, I sensed a divine presence surrounding me, always there, like a silent partner in my journey. It was a profound realization to grasp that the hardships I faced weren't punishments at all. Rather, they served as chances for growth and renewal. Each struggle, each instance of pain, began to unfold its own purpose in the larger tapestry of life. This shift in perspective didn't lessen the reality of suffering, but it did illuminate it in ways I had never imagined. Something else that struck me deeply was this overwhelming sense of oneness with everything around me. In those moments of connection with the divine, the lines blurred between who I was and what existed outside of me. I realized I was interwoven with everything, and everything was interconnected in me. This awareness infused me with a profound sense of peace and belonging, like a long-lost puzzle piece finally finding its place. During this extraordinary experience, I found myself receiving glimpses into alternate dimensions, other layers of reality. It was astonishing to see how our tangible world is part of a grand design, where every moment holds purpose within God's creation. These visions were both staggering and enlightening, broadening my perception of what truly exists. A particularly heartwarming part of this moment was when the divine presence reached into the depths of my heart, addressing my most haunting fears and doubts. All those insecurities, all those nagging thoughts about my own worth, they melted away softly. For the first time ever, I caught a glimpse of myself through the lens of divine love, finally recognizing my true value and the potential that lay within me. Time seemed to lose its grip during this communion with the divine. It felt like I could have been there for just a fleeting second or an endless eternity. What I did know was that I was immersed in something far beyond ordinary understanding, something that was reshaping my very being and my perspective on life and self. As I soaked in these revelations, waves of gratitude washed over me. I felt thankful for this enlightening encounter, appreciative of my whole life, the highs and the lows that led me to this moment. I recognized that every step of my path, even the challenging ones, held significance and beauty. And then gently, I sensed I was being readied for the next phase of this incredible expedition. There was still so much more to explore and learn. It felt like the divine presence was walking alongside me, guiding me toward further insights that would reshape my understanding of love, life, and even death itself. Wrapped in a warm, divine embrace, I started to grasp deep insights about what universal love really means. It felt like layers of misunderstanding were melting away, letting me perceive reality in a way I never had before. One of the first lessons that hit me was the idea that divine love doesn't play favorites. In the eyes of the universe, every soul holds the same worth. No matter what we've done, where we come from, or the choices we've made, that love remains steadfast and unconditional. To drive this point home, I was shown glimpses of various people's lives. There was a woman on the streets, battling the elements. Then I saw a businessman reclining in a lavish office, enjoying his status. Next, my gaze shifted to a playful child in a refugee camp, full of innocence. And finally, I witnessed an elderly man surrounded by the sterile whiteness of a hospital room, experiencing his last moments. In each of these situations, God's love was as intense and complete as it could be. This realization hit me hard. Throughout my life, I had often felt less than worthy of love, always believing I didn't deserve the same affection as others. But in that moment, everything clicked. It was clear, in the grand scheme of the divine, I was just as cherished as anyone else. Another significant truth that unfolded for me was how deeply interconnected everything is. I began to see how each action, thought, and feeling sends out ripples across the vast network of existence. When we inflict pain on others, we're essentially hurting ourselves because we're all part of this greater whole. With this new understanding came a refreshing perspective on compassion and forgiveness. I realized that the judgments we often lay on ourselves and others stem from a narrow viewpoint. From the lens of divine love, there's no space for criticism, just understanding and empathy. One of the most profound truths I encountered was about suffering. I came to see that the trials we endure in life aren't punishments, but rather chances for growth and transformation. Each tough experience carries with it a vital lesson, serving as a catalyst for our evolution. My own struggles, like childhood abandonment, periods of abuse, and the weight of depression, were not signs of divine retribution, but essential milestones in my spiritual journey. Every hardship offered me the opportunity to cultivate resilience, compassion, and wisdom along the way. I had this eye-opening moment when I realized something crucial about reality. It dawned on me that the physical world we perceive is just a tiny fraction of a much more intricate existence. There are layers and dimensions that lie beyond our usual comprehension, all intertwined and imbued with an incredible sense of divine love. Then everything changed when I grasped that death isn't really the end. It's more like a shift. I witnessed how our souls continue their journey after leaving the physical realm, ever growing, ever evolving, and continuously surrounded by love. This new perspective washed away the heavy fear of death I'd been carrying for so long. It felt freeing, like shedding a heavy coat after a long, cold day. One of the standout insights I had was about love and positive thinking. I became aware that our thoughts and feelings actually mold our reality. Love, in particular, is profoundly transformative. I realized that by nurturing love within ourselves, for our own well-being and for others, we have the power to change our surroundings. It's astounding how something so simple could have such a significant impact. As I pieced together these revelations, it became clear. The universe is inherently good. Even amidst all the pain and turmoil we witness, there's a grand design at play, a divine blueprint of love and growth that touches all aspects of existence. With each truth I absorbed, I was enveloped in a deep sense of peace and acceptance. All those fears and doubts I clung to felt trivial compared to this newfound understanding. It was the first time I truly felt part of something larger than myself, embraced by unconditional love, complete in my being. But deep down, I sensed there were still more insights waiting to unfold. I felt as if the universe was gearing me up to comprehend a particularly significant truth, one that would shine a light on the very reasons that had led me to this moment. As I continued to dive deeper into this mystical experience, I could feel the anticipation building for a key revelation, something that would directly confront the circumstances surrounding my earlier struggles, especially my suicide attempt. In a way, it felt like the universe was about to hand me a perspective shift that would turn everything I thought I knew about life, death, and our choices on its head. And then, rather than coming to me through words or images, this profound understanding blossomed within my mind. What I gained from this experience left me in awe. This divine presence, God, the universe, or whatever name we choose, doesn't condemn those who have taken their own lives. The moment I grasped this truth, it felt like a brilliant light had pierced through the darkness of years filled with fear and misconceptions. Growing up in a structured religious environment, I had always held the belief that taking one's own life was a grave sin, a notion that haunted me and intensified my struggle with suicidal thoughts, especially in moments of unbearable anguish. Yet, in this profound experience, wrapped in the pure and limitless love of the universe, everything became strikingly clear. There was no judgment and no punishment to be found, only boundless compassion. I understood that the souls of those who end their own lives are welcomed with the very same kindness and acceptance as any other. It dawned on me that there's an immense understanding of the suffering that leads a person to make such a heartbreaking decision. From this broader divine perspective, suicide isn't viewed as cowardice or selfishness, contrary to what society often suggests. Instead, it's seen as a manifestation of deep, unendurable pain, a desperate plea for help from someone overwhelmed by despair. I realized, too, that every life carries a unique purpose and potential, and when someone takes their life prematurely, it interrupts their chance to fulfill that destiny in this lifetime. This isn't about punishment, it's about lost chances for growth and transformation. Following this, I came to understand that when a soul leaves its body in such a way, it embarks on a journey of healing and discovery. That soul gets the opportunity to reflect, grasp the lessons from the life it left behind, and prepare for future paths of personal evolution. This insight washed over me like a tidal wave, sweeping away all the guilt and fear I had harbored regarding my own thoughts of ending my life. I felt an overwhelming sense of relief and gratitude, so profound that if I had still been in my physical form, I might have collapsed in joyous surrender. However, the insight didn't end there. I recognize that even though the divine doesn't cast blame on suicide, there exists a deep sense of sorrow whenever a life is prematurely extinguished. Not because the individual is lost, but rather because so much potential remains unfulfilled. Every life holds immense value, and each experience presents a unique chance for personal growth. I came to realize that the real challenge isn't in the act of taking one's own life. No, the real struggle lies in feeling utterly alone, hopeless, and abandoned. Even in our darkest hours, the universe, with its infinite wisdom, always lays out alternatives and opportunities for healing that we might not immediately perceive. This revelation shifted my entire outlook on life and death. I began to recognize that every single moment is an invaluable opportunity for love, growth, and evolution. Even during the toughest times, there's potential for transformation tucked away, waiting to bloom. As I embraced this understanding, I felt something profound shift within me. The pain and despair that had once pushed me to consider ending my life gradually melted away, replaced by a newfound appreciation for existence and the unconditional love weaves through everything. In that moment of deep transformation, I sensed a new presence coming my way, ushering in the next significant chapter of my journey. While I was piecing together this profound insight about suicide, something remarkable happened. I realized I wasn't alone in this space filled with light and warmth anymore. Two brilliant figures appeared beside me, radiating a compassionate and wise energy that I instinctively recognized as angelic. They didn't have a physical shape like we do. Rather, they felt like pure fields of energy, their colors shimmering beyond anything visible on Earth. Their voices weren't conventional sounds, but gentle vibrations that echoed directly in my mind. The first angel greeted me with an unimaginable warmth, saying, "Welcome, dear soul. You've faced so much and shown incredible strength on your path. We're here to provide comfort and guidance." A rush of emotion surged through me. It was as if at that moment someone truly recognized my journey, understanding my struggles without any judgment. Tears, not made of water, but pure feelings, seemed to flow from my very being. Then the second angel emerged, emanating an energy filled with ancient wisdom. "You find yourself at a pivotal point in your journey, dear one. Your past choices have led you here, but now a new choice lies ahead." A wave of confusion washed over me, prompting my question about what they meant. The first angel, speaking with a gentle tone that eased my restless spirit, replied, "You can choose to stay here in this realm or go back to your life on Earth." I hadn't considered there might really be a choice until that very moment. The thought of staying in a place filled with endless love and tranquility brought me joy, while the idea of returning to the struggles and heartaches of my earthly existence felt overwhelming. However, the angels seemed to pick up on my uncertainty and offered me further guidance. The second angel chimed in reassuringly, "Whatever you decide, there's no mistake to be made. If you stay, you'll find a warm welcome. But if you go back, it will give you a chance to finish some crucial lessons and maybe even assist others along their paths." As I mulled this over, I was shown vivid images of what my life could look like should I return. I envisioned myself healed and sharing my journey with those who were suffering. I saw the glimmers of hope I could offer to others who felt lost and defeated, just as I once had. The first angel gently reminded me, "Keep in mind, dear one, that should you choose to return, all the understanding and love you felt here will stay with you. Your view of life will change fundamentally." I was grateful for their wisdom, yet even then, a part of me hesitated. "But how can I know I'll have the strength to tackle life's challenges again?" I inquired. In response, the two angels seemed to radiate an even brighter light, their voices harmonizing. "You won't be alone. We will always be by your side, supporting you even when you can't see us. The strength you seek is already inside you, waiting to be brought to life." In that instant, I felt an immense connection to something far greater than myself. It was as though all the love and knowledge I had absorbed were coalescing within me, forging a profound core of strength and purpose. I realized that while the peace and love of that spiritual realm were unmatched, there was undeniable value in returning to embrace the human experience. The chance to grow, to face difficulties, to offer aid to others, and to savor the beautiful intricacies of life on Earth suddenly became incredibly precious. With this clarity washing over me, an urgent call surged within, compelling me to choose the path of return. I was filled with a newfound determination, prepared to embrace life fully. Staring at the celestial beings surrounding me, their approving energy was palpable, even without conventional faces to express it. "I'm ready to return," I declared, my thoughts reverberating with purpose. There was so much waiting for me, so many experiences still to dive into. The angels acknowledged my resolve, their presence growing warmer and stronger. "Keep in mind, They harmonized in a melodic, echoing chorus. The wisdom and love you've gathered here will accompany you. Your return is a journey of growth and intent. As I braced myself for the shift back to the earthly realm, an array of emotions washed over me. Excitement and a hint of anxiety, but most of all, a deep sense of gratitude for this remarkable opportunity to start anew. As they began to fade, their radiant forms dissolving into the ether, their final message lingered in my heart. Go forth with love, dear soul. The world needs your light. In that moment, I felt a magnetic force drawing me back, crossing through different realms and returning to the physical life I had left behind. A new adventure awaited. The shift back to my physical form was almost as overwhelming as the journey I had just taken. It felt like speeding through a tunnel of brilliant light, with colors and sensations buzzing past me in a frantic whirl. However, as I neared the earthly realm, the weight of physical reality began to press down on me once more. It was akin to strapping on a heavy suit after soaring freely among the stars. A tingling awareness surged through me, growing stronger as sensations returned. Suddenly, I was hit with a tidal wave of feelings: pain, a chill, frantic voices echoing, and that unmistakable antiseptic scent that screamed, "Hospital." I blinked against the glaring light, and as my eyes adjusted, I realized I was in a hospital bed, surrounded by astonished faces of doctors and nurses. "He's waking up," I heard someone exclaim, wonder dripping from their voice. "It's a miracle." I struggled to speak, my throat parched and aching, but a compassionate nurse offered me a drink. As the doctors started their inquiries and examinations, I slowly began to piece together what had transpired. After 2 days in a coma following that fateful event, I slowly began to regain consciousness. The medical team had lost hope in my survival, let alone my awakening without any signs of brain damage. Listening to them talk felt surreal, like I was caught between two worlds. I couldn't shake off the memory of my experience, the touch of the divine, profound insights, and the presence of angels. Everything seemed so real, yet here I was, back in the physical realm, second-guessing whether it had all been nothing but a vivid dream or a side effect of the trauma. As I continued to recuperate, I noticed a shift within me that went much deeper. The heavy cloud of depression that had loomed over my life before the accident seemed to evaporate. In its place, I found an unexpected sense of calm and purpose I had never felt before. I recalled the comforting words from the angels: "You carry with you the love and wisdom you experienced here." And, they were right. While some details faded away, like the remnants of a dream slipping from my grasp, the core lessons remained firmly planted in my heart. Recovering physically wasn't a walk in the park. My body had endured quite a bit during that fall, and the healing process took time. Yet for the very first time, I confronted every challenge with a shift in perspective. Each painful moment served as a reminder that I was still here, that I had been granted a precious second chance. Those around me began to notice the transformation. The nurses were taken aback by my upbeat approach to recovery, and friends who popped in couldn't help but remark how much lighter I seemed. Jordan, the friend who had been by my side during the accident, was among the first to visit once they allowed it. He tiptoed into the room, visibly shaken, his red eyes betraying the tears he had shed for me. When our eyes met and he saw me awake and smiling, he broke down in relief. "I thought I had lost you," he sobbed. "I'd never forgive myself if—" I couldn't let him spiral into guilt. "Hey, it's not on you, Jordan. Honestly, I should be thanking you. In a way, your presence that day was a lifeline." As days turned into weeks, I found myself opening up about snippets of my unusual experience to anyone willing to listen. Of course, I didn't spill every detail. Some moments felt too intimate, too sacred for simple words. But I did share the essence of what I had learned, the unmatched love that enveloped me, the realization that every single life carries immense value, and the firm belief that we're never truly alone in this world. As I regained my physical strength, thoughts of the future began to dance through my mind. For the very first time in my life, clarity washed over me. I realized I wanted to turn my experiences into a source of support for others battling depression and thoughts of suicide. My journey led me to dive deep into research on various support groups and organizations dedicated to preventing suicide. I made a promise to myself that once I fully healed, my focus would shift entirely to helping others who found themselves lost in similar darkness, just as I once had. As I was getting ready to leave the hospital, I took a moment to reflect on everything I'd been through. It was hard to believe that I had climbed from such a deep pit of despair, where I had even tried to end my life, to a place filled with love and understanding that I had never anticipated. Sure, I knew the road ahead would bring its own hurdles and struggles, but now, armed with a fresh perspective and newfound strength, I felt ready to face whatever came my way. I carried not just the memories of my past, but also an unwavering belief in the unconditional love that surrounds us all. Just before stepping out of the hospital for the last time, I paused and looked back at the room that had been my sanctuary for weeks. A smile crept onto my face as gratitude flooded my heart. I realized this wasn't the conclusion of my journey. It was merely the start of something new. In the months that followed my release, I entered a phase of remarkable growth and self-discovery. Each day unfolded new lessons that helped me weave my near-death experience into my everyday life. The first step I took was to seek guidance from a professional. Even though I felt transformed, I understood the importance of having support to navigate the emotional aftermath of my journey. I found a therapist who welcomed discussions about spiritual experiences, allowing our sessions to become a safe haven for unpacking my revitalized outlook on life. Simultaneously, I decided to immerse myself in support groups tailored for those who had survived suicide attempts and for those grappling with depression. Initially, I went as a listener, feeling a bit hesitant to share my own story. But as time passed and my confidence grew, I began to open up about my experiences. The reactions I received were a mixed bag. While some were doubtful, many others found hope and solace in my words. It was incredibly moving to witness relief wash over someone's face when I spoke about the profound love I had encountered, or when I conveyed the understanding that had blossomed within me. After I came to the realization that our hardships aren't just punishments, but rather chances for growth, it filled me with a sense of purpose that I never thought I'd find. Reflecting back on that eye-opening moment from years ago, I'm filled with a kind of gratitude that feels almost surreal. Each dawn brings with it a renewed sense of direction that influences everything I do. Sure, the shadows of depression still creep in from time to time, like an old friend who drops by unexpectedly, but I've armed myself with better ways to cope. My journey as a therapist and speaker has opened up avenues for me to impact lives in ways I had never dreamt possible. When I look into the eyes of those I assist, I often see the same anguish that once overwhelmed me, and I'm incredibly thankful that I can share not just hope, but also a renewed outlook on both life and death. That near-death experience wasn't just a fleeting incident for me. It marked a significant turning point, a sort of rebirth. It revealed the truth that love is the strongest force we possess, that each life holds its own purpose, and even during our darkest times, there's always a flicker of light if we're open to it. Sometimes, I still find myself pondering whether what I encountered was real. Did I genuinely witness the divine? But then I'm reassured by the angel's words, reminding me that I carry the love and wisdom from that experience within me. The real essence of it all isn't in the specifics of what happened, but in how those moments reshaped my journey and empower me to uplift others. Nowadays, I cherish life as a beautiful quest full of lessons. Every challenge or moment of joy, even periods of sorrow, becomes a stepping stone for growth. I'm no longer fearful of death. Instead, I welcome each day as a precious opportunity to illuminate the world around me. If you're out there struggling in the same way I once did, I want you to hear this. You are loved, utterly and without condition. Your life is meaningful, even if it feels hidden right now. This phase of darkness isn't everlasting, and there is support out there for you. Please don't lose hope. My path is ongoing, and I'm aware that there's still so much for me to discover. Yet these days, I approach every moment with curiosity, gratitude, and an unwavering belief that, regardless of what lies ahead, I am never truly alone. You know, that moment when I faced what felt like the end really opened my eyes to the deeper meaning of life. It's not just about our time here, there's so much more at play, a vast and beautiful mystery surrounding us. Each one of us holds the ability to spark change, to shine like a guiding light in times that can feel overwhelmingly dark. As I move forward in my life, I'm carrying a sense of that glow from beyond, something profound that I wish to pass on to others. I want to remind everyone I encounter of their immense value and the endless love that connects all of us. This journey I've been on, from a place of hopelessness to one filled with brightness, is what I'm eager to share. My real hope is that perhaps it can guide others who might be searching for their own sense of meaning or direction. Life, at its core, seems to revolve around uncovering that light when it feels dark, holding on to hope amid despair, and recognizing love in every situation. Also, let's not forget, we're all in this together. None of us are truly alone. If you found this heartfelt story moving, I'd love for you to like it, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can stay updated and help spread this uplifting message far and wide. Until we meet again.